Putin, listen to me. I have a very important message to you. The message is, and the president of China, oh, I didn't finish Russia.
Yes, sir.
Thank you to correct me, First Lady.
That was Saudi Arabia's version of Saturday Night Live, mocking President Biden and Vice President Harris. The relationship between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia has all but collapsed, with the kingdom's leaders even refusing to take President Biden's phone calls. And if you hadn't noticed, China has begun arming a European country, flying missile systems and who knows what else into Serbia. Now, while all of this was going on this week, the Pentagon was very proud to announce its new equity, inclusion, and transgender policies. The innate weakness of the nation's 46th president is becoming more than a political liability for his party. It is becoming a crisis that threatens American national security. The deep-seated nature of a dithering, clay-footed left-wing presidency, focused more on radical cultural change than anything else, has manifested itself in the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the failure to deter the Russia-Ukraine war, the myopic desperation of the Iran nuclear talks, and a feeble China policy. But perhaps no other indicator of the long-term detrimental impact of this reality is as stark as the administration's projections for military spending. Mr. Biden heralded increases in military funding in his proposed budget, but in typical fashion, he buried the fact that it amounts to only about 1.5% after inflation. While the Biden administration looks to spend trillions on welfare expansion and double down on its open border policy, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin are salivating. Despite the global realignment and the rise of the most powerful bloc of authoritarian powers in history, the Biden projections for military spending will tank to only about 2.5% of GDP by 2030. The Association of the U.S. Air Force has publicly stated that the service is, quote, the smallest, oldest, and least prepared that it has been in 75 years. Yet the Pentagon is cutting back the F-35 program. The Air Force has thousands of fewer pilots and aircraft maintenance personnel than it should. China now has the largest Navy in the world, with nearly 500 ships. But by the end of Mr. Biden's term, the number of U.S. naval vessels will be only about 280, down from about 300 today. Analysts agree that we should be approaching parity with communist China, especially since the U.S. Navy retains global responsibilities the Chinese presently don't have. Growing the Navy's reach and power by getting smaller makes about as much sense as the concept of leading from behind. The Army is also contracting. A large professional fighting force is necessary to ensure the success of an overall deterrence regime. But over the next year, the force size will fall by another 12,000. Thanks to the Pentagon creating a hostile environment for new members, with Biden's mandates for critical race theory seminars, COVID vaccinations, and fruitless public investigations into an alleged epidemic of extremism in the ranks, recruitment is suffering mightily. With Biden's mandates for critical race theory seminars, COVID vaccinations, and fruitless public investigations into an alleged epidemic of extremism in the ranks, recruitment is suffering mightily. The Marine Corps had hoped to increase its ranks to 194,000. That would have allowed them to build new capabilities, but due to budget cuts, the Corps will lose another 2,700 this year and will trend to be near its post-Cold War lows of 172,000 by 2024. The Corps is also suffering from a pilot shortage and is expected to cut fixed-wing and rotary aircraft as well between now and 2030. Returning the U.S. military spending to the Cold War level of 5% of GDP is critical to ensuring we can defend ourselves and our allies against rising threats from the new Axis powers, as well as fuel our economy for decades to come. You know, the White House claims to be prepared to counter the threats from our adversaries. The Biden administration claims that they care about producing good-paying jobs in engineering and technology. They claim they want more manufacturing here in the United States. Well, you're not going to deter or compete with the new China-led bloc of authoritarians by cutting personnel, systems, and vital hardware. We're not going to beat them with solar panels, windmills, and electric cars, no matter what Mr. Biden's teleprompter says. While America haggles over pronouns and teaching sex to 5-year-olds, America's adversaries are watching. They are building, they are innovating, and they are ready to pounce. Restoring America's military should be our government's top priority, just as it was during the first Cold War. It's the best way to ensure America remains safe, the world is more stable, and keep our economy firing on all cylinders for the long haul.